I know, yeah.
You guys got Glen Road, that's.
We had two people on my team. Apparently this is what I already have, man. Dude, I got a kid. I got everything. We're muted, but I think a little bit.
It does say, avoid.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started this evening with the City of Centerton Planning Commission. September 5th, 2023, with a roll call.
Joey Engel. Devin Murphy,
Here.
Craig Langford,
Here.
Barry Harris,
Here.
Don Sessoms,
Here.
Ben Lewis,
Here.
Tony Davis,
Here.
Brandon Swoboda.
Here.
I'm here as well.
Jeff Sanford, sorry.
52nd Monday, it's all right. All right, first thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from 8/15 of 2023.
John, I motion. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the ratification of the admin approvals. There's 3. 2 track splits and then an additional storage for food trucks at the food truck board. Are there any questions or comments in regards to any of the admin approvals?
Yes, yes, okay. So the second track split on here, TS 2314 Signature Builders. It's zoned R3 MF, but the way it's being split only allows for single family. So we're allowing them to do that for R3 SF. And there's a note on the plat that says only single family can be built on these lots. And then
For Rolando's food truck, I would like to table that to the next meeting. I just talked with Rolando, he's here. He's asking for 4 accessory buildings. There's small sheds so that the food trucks can put store their items in. But I kept asking about the white trailer behind the Asian food truck. Can you see? Oh, it's not shown on there, but I think you've all seen it. It's right there, the first one. He said that they were planning on keeping that. That's not what the request said, so it needs to be run back through staff for review. So he's amending his request and we'll run that back through. So
So there's only 2 for consideration tonight.
2 for consideration.
That would be the track split 2313 and then TS 23-14.
It's John, I motion to approve administrative approvals for items A and B.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? Do you need us to table the other one? Or just
Take it off the agenda.
Brian, do
If it's for ratification of administrative approval, the step is we're pulling it back off of the agenda. So do they table it?
Let's table one. Okay, I amend my
Sorry.
motion. I'll motion to approve item A and B and table item C.
Still second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there anyone opposed? All right. Under old business, we have 2 things to discuss this evening. The first one is vacation 2302 Henson with the request to vacate 15 feet of the utility easement, 101 Florence Drive. It is zoned R2, lot 69 of the Tuscany subdivision. And we tabled this last time, right?
Yes.
So I would entertain a motion to bring this back to the table.
This is Craig. I'll move to bring vacation 23-02 back.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right.
Okay, it was the gas line.
There were 2 things, gas and water.
gas line and the water line. So I double checked with Malcolm. Technology, okay. So Malcolm confirmed the water line is all the way back here. It's not anywhere close to being vacated. That's a non-issue. And then they actually are amending their vacation request to I think it's like 4.5 feet now. Instead of 9. So that there's about almost 6 feet between the vacation request and the gas line. And the gas company said they needed 36 inches of clearance, so that's more than enough.
Mr. Hanson, do you agree with all that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? Not, then I would entertain a motion for vacation 2302 Henson with the request to vacate 15 feet. What was that? That is that
9.
the same, so it's 9 now?
I think it's. That was the total ended up being, I think it's 4.5 feet is what it's,
It's that they're requesting to vacate 4.5 feet.
yes,
Divided 40 feet.
yeah,
So it ends up being 39.5.
yes,
No, 29 and.
It's variable between 8 and 5.
yeah. Because it's,
It's on a curve. It's variable
How do we make that motion then, just as presented?
as described in
Redesign.
there.
Perfect.
It's John. I motion to approve vacation 2302. As amended in detail.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? All right, thank you, guys. Good luck. All right, next under old business is the development 2307 Casa Castilla Daycare. Adjacent street agreement approval at 148 Seba Road. As a reminder, it's zone C3. There is an overlying, I guess, PUD. And. Just want to go through.
yeah, do you have to bring it back to the table because you guys skipped it the last time?
John, I motion to bring back development 2307.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed?
Okay, so this is just for the adjacent street agreement. You guys already approved the plans contingent on staff comments. The developers asked that we go ahead and approve the adjacent street agreement for this development, and we can figure out the rest of it when we get to it, because this doesn't have an impact on Main Street or Seba directly, other than the traffic in there, providing that full public connection from Chatty Drive to Main Street, and that includes sidewalks on both sides and street trees and whatnot. So staffs, I asked Public Works, Anthony, Lorraine, we were all okay with approving this as is so that they can get that project started. Contingency, when any other development comes back in, they're gonna have to correct that traffic study.
As I drive by there on the rough road, I just wonder if there's something creative on that. Instead of moving everything that's there, I wonder if long-term, maybe this is a discussion with them and maybe even from a traffic perspective. I wonder if there's a way to make a corner off of there instead of doing a square corner. I don't know, just throwing it out there to maybe buy, it might be better.
Well, when they go to do that. The development plan for that corner. Certainly a possibility at the corner.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
So
about.
on, but when you get started looking at the north side of Cedar Road with those poles. There's no way around that.
Can you pull it back? It's just a question. So maybe wonder if there's a way to pull that back to where is it Isabella Street or whatever that is connects? I wonder if there's a way to put a turn lane starting there and then work on one side. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I was looking,
It's in.
thinking more of, yeah,
So then the pole stays there and the control box stays there and everything else. I'm just throwing it out there.
the intersection would take creative engineering for it to make sure there are islands there to do a right turn lane that avoids it. It really saves cost, but then giving up square footage. It's,
There's gotta be, it might be cheaper than moving $1 million worth of stuff. So just throwing it out there as you guys continue to have conversations with them. I don't know. Tony's probably down there cringing, but you know.
It's not such a big conversation.
Only design that slot.
To make sure I understand, this is still going up in the northwest corner, not down where we talked about, where he was trying to get down the south.
He was just asking about putting it south.
He left it where it was. He didn't change his plans.
So with that, I would entertain a motion for development 2307 Casa Castilla Daycare. Adjacent street agreements as presented with the contingency that as it continues to develop south, we will update or revisit the street agreement.
This is Tony, I make a motion to approve development 23-07 for Casa Daycare, adjacent street agreement approval. With further street improvements to be decided as the.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone opposed? Next on the agenda is a public hearing under new business, and this one is a zoning code, section 14.04.04 zoning districts with the subsections J, RTHD residential townhomes duplex, and K, RTH MF12 residential townhomes multi-family. Ryan, do you want to go do this before we open up to the public?
We did go through and make just a few changes. We added, the density. And we compared this to what was, yeah, let's go to that first, so that you get an idea of what. We looked at what was out there with the R3. Duplex. Okay, but the average was 5.69 with a range from 4.82 to 6.9. Now, we put that in there because that's still in that medium to high density zoning district. The RTHD, which would be comparable with that. But these are townhomes, so they have the narrower, so we would expect a little bit higher density, which they are. They range from 3.99 to 6.54. So I have the averages for the duplex comparison of 5.69 and 6.69. Thereby,
That average.
we came. No, it's not high there.
0.69 is higher than every number on there.
Yeah, maybe the formula is wrong on that. Good thing I brought my calculator. I'll figure that. It's, oh, here. I'll let Gayla figure out while I'm talking.
These discussions before, Emily.
But I shouldn't have added that column. I knew I shouldn't have added.
Probably closer to 5, isn't it?
But what was
It's,
kind of what?
yeah, like
It was around
5.2.
7 units per acre. And so this just verified that it is, that all of them have been within that 7 units per acre. And then on the RTH MF12, the MF12 designation was for 12 units per acre, but with the requirements, there was no way they could hit it, which you can see that they're right around 6.21, 6.82. Now we will, this code is going to be reducing that exterior side setback from, it was 25 feet on each lot, so a total of 50 feet between each group of buildings. So we're looking now at 10 to 15 feet, which we'll talk about. So we figure that will increase to about 9 units per acre.
The real average is 5.26.
5.26.
I think 4.96.
0.25 was good.
But I also messed up
0.26 was good.
I said 5.2.
5-ish.
4.96.
5-ish.
I don't even know where we did it. So it's only 3.99, but. So. And those ranges of the 7 to 10 in that area is our, goes in with our medium to high density. So that's what we're proposing. That's what we figure that these standards will fit into, that's what they will actually yield. It's not a gross, so many acres and so many, so many units. 3,000 square feet, per lot. So we tried to make it more.
Realistic.
Yes, thank you. So, I'll go through the changes that we added. Okay.
Names.
Yeah, I'm good.
Highlighted.
Oh, okay. One recommendation, we always get comments on the townhomes. And we have duplex, D for duplex. It signifies that there are 2 units and it's one structure. Which it is, but these are 2 single family. So we just wanted to rename this to RTH-2, signifying that there are 2 units. And doing this, the reason being is that there, with fire code, there's a little different between duplex and, well, now you're pretty much the same.
Well, the word duplex is 2. So that's what do means.
Code doesn't really see duplex or townhome. It just sees 1 and 2 family dwelling. Where our code differs is the twin homes. Duplex, you own the entire structure and then you rent it to someone else. Where the twin home, you own a side and I own a side, but the building is attached, if that makes sense. So the twin home has to be built to the higher standard of the townhouse and has to be sprinkled. And it meets those qualifications, whereas the duplex does not. I can make it any.
So.
That makes sense.
So that goes into also, we would like to change the title of residential townhouse instead of multifamily 12. Multi RTH 5, that it designates you can have 5 units connected. It's like you have 2 units, 5 units, make it more consistent and more representative of what it actually was.
So what happens when they're 2 and 5, when it's 3 or 4?
That's just up to 5.
We don't have to be 5. They can-
Yeah. And that's. Yeah, it's 3 to 5. I mean, we. So another item that we added. Since we last talked was. To see how y'all felt about the possibility of providing for rear access, rear loading garages. Or driveway. So they would have an alley, their drives would come off of a alley. So if you see on the first page, section 2 on the setback requirements. The double I, it has rear loaded. And instead of a 20-foot rear setback, it would be 5 feet from the property line, and then they would have a 20-foot out. So it's something to consider, but with that, they would need to have a minimum of the 20-foot alley, and they would also need to have street parking availability.
They have to have street frontage.
Yes. And that would also with fire code, then it does, they don't have to worry about that alley. They can access from the streets also.
For private alleys too?
Yes, this is private alleys.
So could they,
Well, anything new platted would be.
Well, I mean, because we get them where they're both private,
You do.
so. That's fine. I mean, I like the,
If it's public, it becomes a road and have to be the 50-foot.
I mean, I just want to make sure it's apples and apples, right? If some developer comes in, I want private alleyways, but I want to break them down.
Yes,
Somebody else that's doing public alleyways and they have to meet.
this was.
This is an alleyway standard. I like,
so could they also, instead of street parking? I mean, if they wanted to put a small parking spaces, let's say. And have a walkway, would that also qualify as street parking?
Well, that's off-street parking. But we could look at, I mean, yeah. You
Because
could
we have
do that. You could
2 of those in the area, don't we?
do street parking or parking lot.
I
Or
mean,
designated parking. Or
Yeah.
something, or so I would,
yes, or
Yeah.
designated, I mean, or
we've got that over at like the Maple Clubhouse, I think has that.
Yeah.
Designated parking.
Okay.
because otherwise they're gonna only gonna have parking on one side. There's a chance they would only have parking on one side, right? I mean,
Yes, it could only be
get
one.
taken out by a fire truck, one of the others, so. Okay,
Okay. I'll put or designated parking area. Be sufficient. Okay, another recommend, we had 10 feet, well, 10 feet for the exterior side. So you have 2 units. And then you have a space between the structures, and it was 10 feet on each side for a total of 20. It was felt this might be a little more than what's required, even for single family homes. We require 7 feet, so to be consistent. Just asking the planning commission if they would consider 7 feet on each side.
How did we get to 10 feet?
10 feet was what it was.
I don't remember how we ever got something like that. That come from? Was there a reason it was 10?
At the time, it probably, that was, yeah, it was fire code related and
So it's got skinnier.
that making sure that they had sufficient between, because we didn't, I mean, that was back in 2004 to 2005 when we did that.
Well, in general, the side setbacks were big for all the townhome ones.
Yeah.
So I think it's just bigger than your duplex, what it sounds like.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I'm just curious as to why we decided 10 when single family is 7 anyway. It seems like.
And duplex is
I
same.
think it was trying to even hold like that the density.
Does anybody,
With us having a density stated, then they could put their units, I mean, their extra, that if they have extra space, then they could use it more for common space.
is anybody opposed to 7?
I think that'd give them more green space.
Okay. And then the other thing that we had talked about, of course, was the rear setback reducing from 25 to 20. Just like all of our everything except for R1 and R2 are 20 feet. Which are our low and medium, low, medium densities. Okay, maximum lot length, block length. This is one thing, we have had some subdivisions that will go on the street for almost a quarter of a mile. And we need to start building in some of these block, so that we don't just have a straight street that doesn't provide, they're just not as safe with, and then in order to cross, that's a long ways to go. So 660 was recommended, what we're recommending. And then there is also something that we wanted you to consider, and you might zoom in, is that sometimes if they may, you know, like if it goes to 700, would staff be able to approve that? So
It's breeding.
we're asking about a 25-foot there, additional
25%.
25%. We can bring it up to 825 that the staff could approve. But if it's more than that, that the planning commission approved.
So it brings less variances and requests to you guys for some of those to where we can hold the 660 if it makes sense for a large sub. Or it's at, 1,000, clearly, no, they'll have to split it. But if there's some that the width of the property is only 800 feet. and they might exceed that 625, it doesn't then require a variance through you guys. And we figured 660 because that's an eighth of a mile even.
But the other caveat to this is that even at 825, so that, they don't space out, like they have a 5-unit, 4-unit, 3-unit, 2, and take up as much, and to get that 825, because that's what I don't want. That's just my main concern on this is everyone's gonna go for the 825. So it's limited to 20 units. And Alan, you kind of worked out some numbers, and I'm gonna give you your garage.
That'll be great.
Because he can decipher, I see all the numbers, and he calculated out how he came up with all that, so.
So based on the setbacks on the streets and everything. I mean, with the 660s, how we got that and why we'd allowed to 825. All of them give even units of about 20, whether it's a duplex like this, it's 10 units. It would be the max they could put, so 20 units to get the 780. So if they have that lot length, we can approve it. And they all, 3-plex, 4-plex, 5-plex are all under 800 feet. So. 18 units, and if they do 6 3-plexes, I'd give us that authority to approve that. And then 20 on the 4, 20 on the 5. And that's using the minimum width allowable for the code. So usually the goal is, so if they're having bigger buildings, we're still not saying, if you just say a flat 20 units. That's what we were originally thinking about, but if they have bigger buildings, it's gonna fly past that. Block length requirement. So if I have that 20 units or 660.
Do you have any comments or anybody opposed to that
What-
math?
One block, is that between road to road?
Road to road.
So just theoretically, they had a strip, and then they had a strip on this end, but there's no road capability here. They have like an area. That would just come to us, or would that, because that, I mean, I'm thinking about this property over here, I don't know how long it is, but. You turn down and you go the whole length and you come back, if you put townhomes all along the back, obviously that doesn't look good, but. If you're gonna have to have green space in there at some point, so if you had some sort of park or detention area, would that be a break?
The goal would be a roads, the access, because the problem is once you start getting to these 1/4 mile long roads. People go faster through your neighborhoods. And it's just not safe, so putting those breaks in there, the blocks. On some where they back up to existing roads. They might not have that there, but they'd have the block length on the internal side, so it's still that reason why you're gonna slow down.
So the internal,
Yeah, internal streets is the goal for that, so you don't have those giant block lengths where people are speeding in your subdivisions.
And maybe we need to state internal streets.
And so the internal stop or whatever is, you said is this gonna be a street? Like what, explain that part to me?
So. Just pretend you have a 1,000 by 1,000 property. At 600 feet, theoretically, you should have at least one road. Going in there, so you have 4 blocks out of that, so people aren't flying that whole width to get out. That's the goal, is kind of slow them down, so there are those break points. Right, 1,000 by 1,000, clearly they're not hitting that full block, the 660. But if you're 13 by 13, you're pretty much hitting that whole block. And some of these that own the 1/2 mile, now you see where you're starting some of those extra road breaks.
So my one thought is with, they have going up to the 825 without on y'all, that to me puts pressure on you. And is there any room for someone to complain about bias in some way?
It's still gonna end up to you. We're still gonna have to defend ourselves.
Yeah, it'll come through on the ratification of administrative approvals, so we'll see it come through. But
But at what, but
I think
what
it-
is gonna be our judgment for, like, how are we gonna discern? Well, are we gonna discern that based on looks? Or are we gonna discern it based on what we think traffic flow will be, or?
Anything above 825 would have to be a full variance approved by you.
And below that, you're still staying at 20 units regardless, right? You're just saying if it's 20 units fits in 660 or 20 units fits in 825, you want some variance there in case you have to shift a couple of feet, right?
Yeah, kind of where we're looking at the administrative person, it doesn't bring as many to you. And again, the goal with that. We can update 25, it's more to be a geometry of a property. If they're only 800 feet wide. 660, they're gonna end up having this random. If they put the roads to the outside where they want to, they're gonna have a random block length of 700 feet. So this means we can approve the 700 without them needing a variance or them having 40 feet of wasted space. That's the intent.
But also by us approving, we've given them the approval, so it should take out the ambiguity, if you will, or question what they approve, because they have up to 25%.
But with this, with limiting to the 20 units, that's 4 groups of 20. Which, I mean, 4 groups of 5, which, what was the total length of that?
4 groups of 5 at the minimum length would be 740. 4 or 5 fourplexes would be 770 feet, so we don't see anyone really hitting the 825 ever. And then 3 plexes, they put 6 of those, so that's 18 rather than the full 20. 740. Like actually, our longest potential block with 20. With the minimum lot sizes as duplexes, and that's 780. So they'd have to be enlarging their buildings to even hit the 825. If we're capping them at 20.
That makes sense.
And so, and since they're limited at the 20, doesn't mean that, okay, the rest then is between the 825 and the 740. Then they'll stick in a duplex or something. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, if you didn't call that out, then they're gonna see 825 and go, well, I can get it approved up to 825.
Yeah.
Let's throw 21 units in there.
Yeah, they'll start doing
So
5 4.
why not just up at the 750, 20 units and just, boom, that's it, done. Cause then you just say 740.
Well, so the worry is if they start increasing their setbacks. To manipulate that, we don't want to have that random block that is now 1,000 feet long. That's when you start getting people where they're gonna want to try to go a bit faster, and at that point. We want you to put that road going through.
But, okay. I mean, let's see, 10% of 660, 726. I was just looking at percentages. I think they looked at some of
I
this.
think you probably go 20%, but I think it's fine, that's the way it is. So at least 740, what do you say? Would be around 20%.
Oops.
You said 740 would be like the maximum for the 5.
For the 5, for the
It's 759.
twin homes would be 780. At 20 units with the minimum width.
Yeah, you're like 23%. I think it's fine with 25.
660.
I'm just looking at like 20% increase
Oh,
instead of the 25. I was just seeing where it ends up.
oh, that's because it ends up being a decimal with the foot length. 25 is an even 165 feet.
And we'll come back to it if y'all want to think about it.
It'd be about 700.
Want to think about it?
No, I'm okay with it.
I'm good. 20 or 25?
25, I mean, 20% will be 700 feet, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody have a problem with the 25%? No. 25.
Okay. Okay.
The maximum building coverage, the next one. I
Yes.
didn't catch that. I didn't comment on that one first. I mean, you're only telling me you can put a structure on 50% of our property. I mean, that seems like that's gonna really kill that value per square foot. I mean, if somebody's spending so much X amount of dollars on a square feet acreage to put a building, I would think they'd want to maximize it by more than 50%. Make sense? If you're telling me I can only build for numbers like 1,000 square foot home on a 2,000 square foot lot,
Yeah, I
that's
think
what you're telling me. And
Well, this already has
I
a,
might not be understanding it
it
correctly.
was 40%. We changed it to 50. And I did look at Bentonville's and I believe that they said 50 on theirs.
But with the way development's going today, should we not allow more than that?
well, you think this is already. a
Well, you're talking about variances, right? If we approve it, then they're gonna come to us for variance after variance. I have a feeling.
One thing, and we started getting into this with Garver because they were looking at, making this more dense and more compliant with their comprehensive plan. Their zoning code is right now. I think that it needs to stay compliant with the others, more in line with the other zones. If we make major changes just to this one, then it's going to throw it all off on everything else. Where when we redo the zoning code, then we can go through and we can do things like that, where we have certain areas, especially like in the downtown.
That's
where-
exactly what.
Exactly.
PUD for that though?
Part of this though,
Exactly on that and come back.
the road frontage at 40 feet. 25 foot front setback, 20 foot rear, and a 7 foot side. that already exceeds 2,000 square feet. If you're 40 by 100. So your setback area already is limited to less than the 50%. If you're 40 by 100. So if you start doing a bigger one, you start getting more, but that's part of. You just want to not limit it at all, because the setbacks already put you to 50. But if they increase the size of their lot beyond the minimum. If they make it 60 feet wide, well, then they're going to do. A very large structure.
Okay, I just want to let you know, we did remove the minimum square foot requirement of a dwelling and the architectural treatment. In 2021, the state passed a law that you can't want, these are single family. And they passed a law that you can't make. You can't dictate what a single family, this architectural treatment's going to be. And so we removed those so that we would not be in conflict with the law. It does get a little muddy when you have them all attached and it looks like multi dwellings, but these are presented as single family. The next thing that we did, accessory buildings, it had one per dwelling unit, then it also had that it wouldn't exceed 20% of the rear backyard. I removed that and I put in exactly what is in the R3 zoning district so that it would be consistent. And that's 7 feet from the rear property line, except for a pool, that would be 10 feet from the property line. And, you know, if it's a portable structure, they would be allowed. Other than that, then this, also under, there was a statement under the architectural treatment that said about the parking, what was going to be required for parking spaces, but it's down on 9 below. So I just removed that one, and I think that this one covers it, that there shall be 2 vehicle parking spaces per dwelling unit with a driveway connecting. Now, what it doesn't have is if there is a garage required or not for one, whether it's a 1 vehicle, 2 vehicles. Do you want, that would be up to the commission, do you want to keep that requirement that there be at least 1 car garage? Or yeah, it was stated as. So I guess technically it could be a carport also.
I think covered parking at a minimum, don't you think, or
I'm sorry. I lost you
you think covered parking at a minimum?
at a minimum. 1 covered parking or,
I mean, I like 2, but
no,
open for some discussion.
Someone proposed one with 1 unit parking. I remember looking at that once, much part of it, the. Streets code and drives requires them to be a certain length, those driveways anyway. So that's more, so if you're gonna dictate the width on that, they'll have 2 exterior parking. Let's do a 1 car garage, 1 car parking outside. That's gonna be a very thin driveway then. The barn's already 25 feet from sidewalk.
What was the parking requirement, or was there not?
it was 1 covered parking. Plus 1. Uncovered, 1 additional, yeah.
It could be covered or uncovered.
And it didn't state whether it was side by side or behind.
Say there's a minimum width on the driveway.
There's minimum length.
No width.
The width is,
Width is
it's
based on
like 2 feet wider than the garage on each side. Is what it says, and that's not what, I don't think they actually build, but
Okay, what they do.
we don't have control over that.
I think there should be at least 1 covered. Is my opinion, but certainly open.
I'm just trying to think how. least one. I can see if we try to put two, I think that could. You know, I'm trying to envision townhomes, how they could be arranged on a lot. How we could, if we put that, but I definitely want. I think one, I would say one.
No, I think
At
our
least.
our problem comes in when there's like, say you have a 3-bedroom townhome and you have multiple vehicles.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? You've got one car garage and then you have one parking space behind that person.
No, we're saying that's the.
Yeah, we're just saying a minimum.
Right,
They
no,
can
I'm
do
just
two.
saying, what do you do if there's, yeah,
Well, then too, if you're gonna do the rear loading, then you're required to have 2-car garage if you're rear loading.
We're talking about
We don't-
minimum standards, right?
right, right. I'm just saying that they're gonna do the minimum. Doesn't matter how,
But with the 5-foot allowed rear loading, that means you're gonna be a rear loading.
well,
of
they,
one, you'd have to get 2-car garage. You'd have to be if you do 5 feet.
I might add that as number 3 then. Car garage.
Well, that'd be enforced from the 5-foot.
5-foot setbacks at minimum, right?
2 cars side by side. Right. Assume garages, but they could have driveways, if even off of an alley. Unless we make the requirement that there's garage.
Covered.
Covered. 2-car covered. For rear load. Okay, and so then otherwise it will be 1 covered parking. Plus 1 additional.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And do you mean horizontal, behind?
Whatever the design, I mean,
I look at the, yeah, that's gonna be dependent on the lot, the design of the home, right?
Then the other thing, and I went through this with Paul. On special provisions for the fire suppression, it used to state that there had to be a 1-hour rated firewall. But they have changed at the last council meeting. The building code was amended so that it, and it specifically states, and I did actually. Myself, but it states that. That they must be sprinkled, and in addition, there's where it states an automatic sprinkler system shall be installed. And they have a whole section on twin homes and townhomes. So another thing, they have, since they have this whole section, I just wanted to reference this section, and I just put must be sprinkled and comply with chapter 11.36 of the Centerton Municipal Code. And then basically the residential townhouse 5. It's the same, looking at 9 units per acre. Instead of 4,000, it'd be 3,000 square feet per unit. With a minimum lot width of 30 instead of the 40. Setback requirements, reducing the front from 25, front stays the same as 25. The rear setback, if it's front loaded, reducing, it was 25, we were going to look at reducing that to 20 feet. And then to keeping the same with the rear loaded requirements up to 5 foot from property line. And with the 20-foot access easement or alley. We're talking, I think we need to make sure that we put 20-foot pavement width. They could do a 20-foot easement and then want to put in 10 feet.
Yeah.
So that might be a problem. Okay, and the parking street availability or street parking availability, and then we will add the
Matches.
our the covered parking.
Additional part.
Do we want to do 7-foot side setbacks on this or 10?
No.
We are looking, no, this was 25 feet. Okay, these are up to 5 units together. It was 25 feet on each lot for a total of 50. We had talked about 15 feet, so that would put 30 feet between each building. We felt that might still be a little excessive, so possibly looking at 10 feet, so that'd be a total of 20 feet between each group, each unit, structure. So that's another change that we wanted to discuss with you all. So basically, we're looking at going from 25 feet to 10 feet, but we're still holding to that units per acre. So, it would be 9 units per acre. Right now, they're kind of building around 7.
By shrinking these setbacks, they can get higher.
How does all that just continue to affect, just green space and all that fun stuff that is important?
Well, that would be the intent on having, they would be limited to a certain units per acre. They can put the buildings closer together and that would free up
Yeah,
more area for green space.
there you go.
Does this have the same 50% max building?
It does. Is it gonna work?
It wouldn't be able to fill the whole area. At 25 and 20, it's 45 of your 100 feet. It's the full 30 feet wide. Exceed the 50. You have 55 by 30 building, 45 by 30 grass.
Yeah.
That's assuming it goes the full depth though.
Yes, it would be more than the 50 now. That was 40 before. Well, it still would have ended up as.
Are y'all still thinking 10? Are y'all opposed to 10?
So the one thing we'll already be aware of when we look at it, particularly like Malcolm and I, is oftentimes with you, standards were between some of these. That easement's 20 feet, so we'll end up making some of them larger. There's that when we review. But that'll be the minimum depth, minimum width anyway.
Does it make it more difficult?
It's a bit tighter if we need to get in there, so we'd have to make it a bit bigger. Your setbacks, depending on what they are, get measured from there. So. 12 and a half would be an odd number to do, so it's 25 between them.
Case by case, it's not all.
Additional
works.
setback would be needed if for drainage and utility.
Can you put that right in the zoning code? Yeah, put 15 foot if you have utilities between,
Unless it's 30 feet deep.
which would exceed it anyway, yeah. Just to do a flat one, storm sewer between, make it straight.
I could just put additional setback may be necessary for drainage and utility.
Just put setbacks measured from easements. You have a big gap, but
Have that for open drainage swells, and I have a hard enough time getting that. Okay, so basically it's this, it's the same. We've gone through, we removed 150-foot maximum width that they could on the buildings and then added the block size. And then we do have new exhibits that lays it out.
Comment on layout here, I don't know if yours is the same or not, but on page 5, my numbers are 3 and 4. Not 8 and 9.
3 and 4.
Yeah.
You're on the duplex.
Yeah, so you got 7 and then 3, 4.
You just.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Got it.
Yeah, we had a couple of people, we were all. Mine are right.
On the 5, it's not on the 2, it's on the 5.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah, you done.
Open up to the public.
there is a misspelling probably in the one that y'all saw, but it's been fixed too. I was like, I know someone's gonna say something.
If we open it up to the public.
Yeah.
So at this time, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for the update to zoning code, section 14.04.04.
Greg, I make a motion to open a public hearing for 14.04.04 zoning district.
On a second.
Motion and second. Is anyone opposed? We are now open to the public. If anyone wishes to speak, have any questions or comments in regards to the suggestions for updated code 14.04.04, we ask that you come to the podium. Got any questions or comments? Second call. And third and final call. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Any other additional questions or comments in regards to the changes to section 14.04.04? And so we would need a motion to make a recommendation to council, correct?
It's John, a motion to recommend council approval of zoning code section 14.04.04 as detailed,
Sections J and K.
sections J and K, sorry. Sections.
Motion and a second. If you'll do a roll call for me, please, because it was a public hearing.
Brandon Swoboda,
Yes.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Ben Lewis.
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Frank Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Jeff Sanford.
Yes. Thank you guys for all the work. All right, next on the agenda this evening is subdivision 2212 Kenyon Place. This is the preliminary plat. Northwest corner of Kenyon and Keller. It is zoned R3 single family, 40 acres, 151 single family lots. The applicant can give us a quick overview.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Long. I represent Expedient Civil Engineering to discuss Kenyon Place, preliminary plat. I believe you said 151 lots. Is that correct?
I just read what's on here.
Okay.
But it might not be 151 as I see the other note.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say because the information I got this morning was 146 lots total, 2 of them being unbillable. One detention pod, 1 lift station, and coming before you all today to ask for approval for the preliminary plat that has been submitted.
Taylor, are you gonna do this?
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best. Okay, so as I said, it's 146 lots on 40 acres on the corner of Kenyon and Keller, directly north of Crystal Cove's phases 1 through 3. It breaks down to about 3.65 units per acre. It does include a detention lot and 1 lift station lot. It's zoned R3 SF, which is maximum density of 6, so that 3.6 will under that. Surrounding subdivisions include Crystal Cove's phase 1 through 3, which is RTHMF 12 with 6.48 units per acre, and Morningside Estates to the east, which is 4.35 units per acre. For utilities, the subdivision will connect to city water from the existing water line along Kenyon Road. The lift station will connect to an existing manhole on the south side of Kenyon, adjacent to Crystal Cove's phases 1 through 3. Wetlands assessment was completed for the property and no jurisdictional wetlands are present. The property is not in or adjacent to the floodplain. For drainage, they're proposing a dry detention pond located at the northwest corner of the property, which will collect storm water from the east and discharge to an existing something to the west of the property. For the adjacent street agreement, Keller Road is a minor arterial with a master street plan section of 90 foot of right of way. And Kenyon Road is designated as a major collector on the master street plan with 80 foot of right of way. I'm gonna let Alan explain these adjacent street agreement details because it's weird, only because of the way this little piece of property isn't owned by anybody that's involved in this. The curb and gutter, widening the road is a little weird. Alan, take it away.
They're doing half street improvements for this road, which on Keller Road is widening to the 19 feet center line to back of curb. Whole curb and storm going in, the whole length of Keller. On Kenyon, they're the second one to build, so they are doing widening of 4 feet on either side of the road, curb and gutter on both sides of the road, where it abuts to Crystal Cove, because we don't have the right of way. For the east half of that, that's still not owned, that will, they'll just be doing the curb and gutter and the widening on the north side of the road.
And then, in terms of trails, the McKissick Spring Loop runs along the west side of Keller, so that will be built along Keller Road, and then they'll be building 10-foot sidewalk on Kenyon. And then it says that there will be street trees, but I could not find a landscape plan, so any approval needs to have a landscape. What I've got.
You have a landscape plan in your back pocket?
No, sorry, dude. That's-
Is there a tree preservation plan? with this?
There's a lot of old big trees back.
Yeah, it's here.
Beautiful trees. Feel part of Joey's soul dying right now.
I see something listed here on this page that has some classifications of the trees
Are you,
and the health of them,
I'm
and
sorry.
the size, but it doesn't say what they're gonna do with it.
have you designated any trees to preserve?
I would have to check with the engineer for it.
See what I'm talking about down here?
Yeah, at the bottom.
Were you seeing that?
At the bottom of this page.
Yep.
It shows,
In the
They
tree
did a-
inventory.
they did an inventory of the types of trees. But there's nothing that says what they're going to do.
That same paper shows a tree protection fence plan, but.
I don't see them keeping any of the trees, but
It isn't. No.
Well, everything in that middle island, they're not showing any grading. So all those trees that you see the little ball going around,
Tree protection area.
yeah, those are gonna stay. At least during the preliminary part of this, when they build the houses.
In the white, huh?
Man, those look like lot line, that ain't staying.
Okay, can you say that one more time?
It kind of defeats the purpose of the tree preservation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just shows what's there now, but then you show houses going on top of them.
Yeah.
It shows the demolition of a lot of trees.
I mean, other than that, there's
there's just minor comments left. On submittal 6, we haven't gotten all of the comments back from staff for submittal 7. I guess a bigger binder.
But we don't know about any replanting of any trees then. We don't have it in writing.
Huge oak trees back there.
That page that we're looking at is supposed to be the tree preservation plan, like
Can you speak up just a little bit?
that particular page that we were looking at is supposed to be the tree preservation plan, but
You don't show anything being
it didn't
preserved.
show anything being preserved.
Me, it seems like we need the details behind the tree preservation. And any thing to make up for those. And we don't have those details tonight. Sorry, you were the designated person to come tonight.
That's all right.
With half of the information that you need. That's just my opinion. I mean,
Can you say it again?
I think that we should have more details in regards to what the true tree preservation plan is in regards to this. And I would agree that circles are great, but those look like 99% of them are gonna go away at the end. And I think that kind of is the purpose of doing a tree preservation report out. So I mean, we can attempt to approve it. We can table it. I'm open to ideas or thoughts or.
So,
I'd rather vote on that after you see the preservation.
yeah,
plan.
so I have questions about this, based on everything else I'm seeing here. So, we had a long discussion about the property on Main and the amount of green space that they were needing to put in. And we had lots of discussions about with all the townhomes that they were building, the duplexes all on Main right there behind that white structure. I can't remember what the name of that was. Lots of green space, when I look at this, I mean, I just see, it's just all houses and so how do you account when y'all are looking at something like this? How do you account for the green space in this type of situation?
So this is a subdivision. What you're talking about was a PUD, so they're required to give more green space because of the concessions that we give it for PUD. For subdivisions, as long as they meet our code and whatever requirements you guys put on it, we can't really dictate.
Okay, thank you. That was it. Okay, I couldn't remember.
With the new development code, we are looking at making that requirement of green space provision.
So that is it.
It's in the
Discussion, it's just not there yet.
draft. It's a big animal. You guys are gonna love it.
Yeah.
And
So,
this, and I think you read that this is kind of in less dense than some of the other
Right, yeah, I saw that.
neighborhoods around them at least.
Absolutely.
But there's nothing on here. There's no gathering space, I guess.
Right, and that's what I would want. Yeah, I'd love to see gathering space for our.
Yes.
We can get some of that with the preservation of.
I think the tree preservation is my biggest thing right
Yeah, me
now,
too.
because it doesn't seem as though there's a good solid plan that we can find or that we're aware of.
This would be different if it was a, 100-acre cow field with no trees.
Right.
But with the few areas we do have large age trees left, I think there needs to be some kind of consideration for.
So I would just entertain a motion if you guys would like to table. Or if you want to take a vote, we can certainly take a vote, but if it gets tabled, then of course we would see it at under old business on probably the next meeting.
I think they tried to do a plan and just maybe it's not fully baked yet, so I would give the benefit of doubt and table that rather than. Would be my suggestion.
I'd second that.
All right, John, I motion to table subdivision 2212. Can you please?
Ben, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to table. Is there anyone that's opposed to that? Thank you.
Does he?
I think that Diane and Kayla will be able to give you the information to come back. All right, next on the agenda is subdivision 2307 Prairie Brook Phase 5, final plat of plans. It's at the northeast corner of Tycoon and Bush Road. It is zoned R. 7.7 acres, 41 dwelling lots. Give us a high level overview.
Yeah, my name is Mike Berry here with Schuber Mitchell Homes to present Prairie Brook Phase 5. This is the final phase in Prairie Brook. This will wrap up our development there, and we 41 lots, of course. The engineer of record, Own Engineering, Josh Collins is here to help answer any questions if you guys have any, as well as I can answer some questions as well.
You doing this one too?
Yes. Okay, so this parcel is located on the northeast corner of Bush Road and North Tycoon, to the north of Prairie Brook Phase 4. The management is Phase 5. It is the final phase of Prairie Brook. So this phase consists of 41 buildable lots with a density of 5.31 units per acre. This is zoned R3 SF, or got a typo, with a maximum density of 6 units per acre. The detention pond was used as a sediment pond for the first 4 phases, but has now been built out completely to function as a detention pond with this phase. There was a performance bond that was being held. It's since been converted, given back, subsidized into a smaller one for the maintenance bond. I'll go over that when I get to bonds. As I said, this is R3SF. So the minimum lot area was 6,000 square foot with a minimum lot width of 60 feet. Minimum setbacks were around 25, rear 20, interior side 7, street side 25. Already went over the pond. The final inspection was held on 8/10/2023, and the site is mostly complete, but there are still some comments outstanding that I recommend that the approval for this should be contingent on those being complete in a follow-up inspection, confirming that that work was done. The covenants were approved with phase 1 of the subdivisions. For the bonds, you guys have the amounts there. That drainage bond for 100% for 2 years, that 138,402, that includes maintenance of the pond. The adjacent street construction was completed with phase 1, and the right of way was also dedicated. There are still comments remaining for the record drawings. I believe it was Centerton Utilities. I think Alan has the information about that. And then minor comments remaining on the final plat. And then it looks like we also need a hydrant map and GPS locations for the hydrants for fire approval. So I recommend that any approval for the final plat also be contingent on all comments for the record drawing being addressed.
So the site inspection was almost a month ago. Have all those repairs been completed?
Those have not. There's a few items that we're waiting on. Like the actual sign to come in. We're waiting on a nut for a fire hydrant to come in. And then other items be addressed and are supposed to be addressed by the end of the week at the latest.
The street topper, they're waiting to get that in from the sign shop. They've been taking 3 months, I think, for a lot of these toppers. Hydrant, like you said, needs to be raised, but again, that's coming from one of the iron shops, get that piece to raise it. The receipt for that, we've already got it. The other one are just minor maintenance things that there's no reason why they shouldn't have those done before the city council meeting next week.
Okay. About the record drawings, are y'all close or?
Yes, they're
Or what, sorry?
minor comments for Centerton tools.
GPS locations, are those completed? We want to keep Paul happy.
You're gonna say yes.
Thank you.
So yeah, the only thing for Centerton Utilities is a couple of the things they shot in the field didn't match where it's located in the field. So they'll have to double check all those things and then they'll hold our meters so they're done. But they've already communicated all that.
We discussed with Lindsay and lots.
We just haven't seen one of these in a while that wasn't complete. That's the reason I want to get some details as to why. I mean,
All of those things should be done. except for perhaps the materials, they can't do anything to expedite delivery on. The street topper and the,
So they can bond for those, right?
Hmm?
They can bond out for those, right?
we already have the receipt, they bought the street signs. They're just not here yet.
We can wait to record the final plat till everything.
That was gonna be my second, you can hold off on.
Any other questions or comments? If not, then I would entertain a motion for subdivision 2307 Prairie Brook Phase 5, final plan and plans with some contingencies.
This, Tony, I make a motion to approve subdivision 23-07 Prairie Brook Phase 5 final plat and plans per the contingency of outstanding comments from staff.
Like on the record drawing, minor ones on the final plat and final inspection for site.
Yes. We have a motion, couple of seconds. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. Under announcements, there is training on all night. The council meeting is 9:12. Our next PC meeting is 9:19. If you can't be here, make sure you let us know. And there is a tech review on 9/21, but I will see you guys before then. Anything else from staff?
October 2nd.
Oh, yeah, there's a public input meeting for the greenhouse expansion project. It'll be at the community center on Airport Road. And that'll be open from 4 to 7. As planning commissioners, you will be welcome there from 3 to 4. Then we'll go to public from 4 to 7. You can be there for that as well.
Pull forward that. Do we have a invite?
No, just what I sent you. I don't have a formal invitation.
Okay, we'll send that out to y'all. Okay.
I'll notify the council again. I can just include them when it goes in.
Okay.
Cause I'm gonna remind them a couple more times before then.
October 2nd is a Monday. So our meeting will be 2.
If nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.